Let's talk about how you can retire within 7 years, starting with $0 and zero skills. Now, if you're anything like me and you want to build wealth fast so that you do not have to worry about money and can enjoy your life, then this 3-phase process might be for you. And I think one of the main reasons why the majority of people are stuck in the rat race, because 59% of Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency. That is the definition of rat race, to have to keep working in order to be able to pay the bills. So one of the main reasons people are stuck in the rat race is because they do not know the steps. They do not know the process of reaching financial independence. So let me talk about this process so that by the end of the video, you know exactly what to do if you want to retire within 7 years. Or even if it takes longer or shorter, you will know if you're on the right path. If we haven't met, I'm Sophia. I have learned about personal finance and investing for more than a decade now. So I usually talk about how to build wealth without living frugal, but not in this video, because retiring within 7 years will require you to put everything, and I mean everything, towards your wealth. So that will not allow for much luxury in that time, only for the bare minimum. But on the other hand, being able to retire and completely do what you want after 7 years, that's probably luxury enough. Sipping on your non-alcoholic drink at the beach. Non-alcoholic because you will need every brain cell intact for the journey we're about to begin. And now let's go. Alright, so phase 1 is mind work. And what you need to understand, and also I need to understand, the only reason why you cannot retire right now is because of your mind. And there are several angles from this, so let's go through them. One is a lack of knowledge. That could be that, for example, you don't know how much money you actually need to retire. And here I could bring up several different equations on how to calculate that. And the FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, most of the time has calculated with the 4% rule, which means that you can take 4% out of your portfolio every year. But I'm actually working on a video right now that might overthrow the 4% rule. But for this video, we're just gonna keep it easy. You will need at least $1 million or the equivalent in your currency. So $1 million to retire comfortably, especially when it's well before your official retirement age. Another angle that will require a lot of mind work are false beliefs. So what has held me back for the longest time, and it still does in parts, is what I learned about money. If you, for example, don't think that it's possible to retire within 7 years, then that is a false belief. If you think only people with a college degree can ever make that much money, that is a false belief. If you think you have to work very hard to make a lot of money or accumulate a lot of money, that is also a false belief. And all of these beliefs that we might not even be conscious about, that are like, working in the background, they are so deeply embedded into ourselves, into our mind. And I can tell you, it does actually take some work to get rid of them. And one way to get rid of them is to look for counter evidence. So if you do think you need a college degree, then find someone who retired within 7 years or made a lot of money or whatever you're looking for, who reached that without a college degree. Or if you think it does take hard work to earn a lot of money, then become aware of the people who actually work very hard all day long, all life long, and they still don't accumulate a lot of money. By the way, I do not want to talk you out of getting a college degree. I have actually several myself, and statistically, the people with a college degree do out-earn people without a college degree on an average, when you look at the average. But our goal in this video is not to look at the average, it's to retire within 7 years. So that kind of requires a different perspective or different glasses to look at this. Do you know what I mean? Alright, so all the false beliefs that you might have about money, about having money, about making money, about accumulating money, you need to dissolve them. And I already made a video where I go deeper into the steps on how to get rid of toxic money beliefs. I will link it up here. And then yet another angle from the mind work phase is to set unreasonable goals. Now, if you don't set a goal at all, it's like wandering around in the dark. And I can already tell you right now, that is something that I learned too late in life. And that is the reason why for the longest time I dabbled. I did things, I did the right things, but I didn't do them with the intensity that I could have done them because I didn't have a clear goal, an unreasonably high goal. So when you do not have a goal yet, one that really means something to you, like a burning desire, then you're probably dabbling like I did. So set an unreasonable goal. And in a way, in this video, we already created one, which is get to $1 million in net worth within 7 years. And this phase number 1, the mind work part, you actually never stop working on that. So you do some of the things we just talked about, like setting your goal, writing it down, things like that. But then even when you enter phase 2, which we are about to do, you still need to keep working on your lack of knowledge in whatever field it may be, and also on your false beliefs, because they are the main barrier that will keep you from reaching your goal. And that brings us to phase number 2, which is the financial strategy. And I would say this starts with learn what you need to know fast. And the bare minimum that you need to know right now is money management 101. Because retiring early means to have money, to have enough money, and we already set a monetary goal. But even if someone manages to make the million, if he then spends the million, then he doesn't have any money, right? So to have money in a way that it enables you to retire, you need to have that money invested. Invested into appreciating assets. So take, for example, 1 week to consume all the knowledge, or at least as much knowledge as possible about this field, how to manage your money. And I put this one first in this phase because as soon as money comes in, you need to know how to manage it. And then actually the next step within this phase is to make money, and make money now. So the thing when you want to retire early is you cannot wait 7 years to finish a study that then afterwards starts making you money. So you need to start making money right now. And even if you are a student, that's absolutely no problem. Finish your study, but take a side job or do a paid internship or do anything that allows you right now to make money. And at this point, in this stage, it doesn't matter if it's muscle work. And by muscle work, I mean trading your time for money. Or even actually work with your muscles, like cleaning out garages or helping people move or, wherever the bar is very low to get a job right away. And yes, you will hear out there, you need to stop trading time for money. But the truth is, my truth is, you stop trading time for money when you invest it. Because investing your money means to let it work for you. So you keep working your job, you invest the money you earn, or at least part of the money you earn, and then it keeps working. And in the beginning, it might not work very hard yet, but trust me, it will. And your very first sub-goal in this stage will be to reach financial security. Now, I go deeper into this in another video, but real quick, we need 6 essentials in order to reach financial security. And the very first one is have an income. We already covered that. Now, the second one is cover your expenses. And I already mentioned in the beginning, when you really want to retire early, or be able to, even if you do not want to retire early, you need to become a master of keeping your costs as low as possible. In numbers, that would mean, for example, housing, 20% of your income. At the absolute maximum, 30%. Food, 10% of your income. And that also brings me to the next essential, which is insurances. So we need to protect our downside, which means we need to protect ourselves against situations that can bankrupt us in a moment. And there are a few insurances that cover exactly those situations. So we are already saving at every end, but we are not saving on insurances. And then the next essential is have a cash buffer. Because even if you have planned everything in detail, something might come up that you have to pay for. So we do want a cash buffer on the side. And because for this cash buffer, the emergency fund, you can use expenses and our expenses are already very low, it doesn't actually require a huge amount of cash laying around. Then the essential, no debt. If you want to be financially free, you should not have any debt and especially not go into new debt. And then the last essential for financial security is to save for retirement. And that means to use advantages that usually are offered when it comes to retirement, like for example, tax advantage retirement accounts. By the way, I have all these 6 essentials condensed into a checklist. So if you want that as a reminder and you also like to physically toggle things off, it's free, link down below. And then after we reached financial security, the next thing becomes the investment strategy. So all the money that before went into the 6 essentials of financial security now we keep investing with that money. We keep investing into our freedom fund or retirement fund or however you want to call it. And this fund will be what you live off of later. So take some time to research, find your long-term investment strategy, and then stick with it. Because then we will need all the mental space for phase 3. And also, you want to finish phase 2 as soon as possible, as fast as possible. For example, within 6 months or 1 year. And even if you cannot make it, remember the unreasonable goals. Still set yourself a short timeline like this. Because even when you don't hit it, you will still hit it sooner than when you set yourself a longer deadline. Do you know what I mean? All right. And now we are going to enter phase 3, which is where you unlock a higher income. Because the thing is, if you came to me and you say, you know what, I want to retire in 35 years, then I would say, absolutely no problem. Let's get you to 100,000 invested ASAP. And then after that, compound interest will do the rest. Because then either way, you will retire as a millionaire. And that is calculated with an average return of 7% per year, taxes ignored. But here right now, we want to retire in 7 years. That means we do not have time as a lever. The only lever we have when we want to retire in 7 years is how much we put in. So we need to put a lot of money into our investments, into our freedom fund. And that is why phase number 3 is think outside the box. And I want to tell you about an experiment from Stanford University. So there was a kind of an experiment, or rather like a task, at Stanford University. It was from a professor there, Tina Seelig. I will link the video down below. And the students were given the task to make as much money as possible within 2 hours. And at the end, they were to present what they have come up with in front of the class. And they built several groups, and each group got $5 as sort of a startup capital, or seed capital, which it's called in the startup world. Now, some of the groups concentrated on the $5. So they bought some things from that money and then they resold it for a higher price and made some profit. Some groups used the time of the seminar, so the 2 hours, in order to offer a service and then get paid for the service. So they didn't even concentrate that much on the $5, but more on the time they had. And one group, which is the group that made the most money, they sold their presentation spot because they thought, you know what, to present in front of a group of people like us, students at Stanford University, that must be worth something to businesses or to recruiters. And so they sold their presentation time for $650. Now that's a return of 12,900%. Although technically it's not even a return because they did not use the $5. So technically they created $650 out of nothing but thinking. By thinking outside the box and asking, okay, what is the value that I can bring or that we can bring that is worth something to someone? Now that completely blew my mind, and I think it also proves once more how really the mind is the main barrier. And the way I see it when we look at that task, there are 2 components. Number 1 is have the idea. And then the second component is execute on the idea. Because of course this group who made the $650 within 2 hours, they still had to go out and find those businesses or recruiters and call them and make their pitch. And what I have learned myself on my entrepreneurial journey so far is the faster you can go from having your idea or learning something to executing on the idea or implement what you learned, the faster you can have success. So you remember within phase 2, I said it's totally fine to start with muscle work because you need to get in that money and you need to get the stone rolling somehow. But now in phase 3, while you keep doing the muscle work, and because of the muscle work, you do not have to worry about money. So while you now do the muscle work, you start thinking. So what can I offer that is of value and who would pay for it? And now in this case, pay more for it. Because now it becomes about increasing your income. And now I said we start with $0 and 0 skills. But still it can be a skill that you already learned, but maybe you're not aware that it is a skill. So maybe it's sports, or maybe it's playing an instrument. Maybe it can be something that you learned in your job, in your muscle work job, and now you start selling that knowledge. I learned how to most effectively do X, and now you start pitching that to people who may be interested in that. And by doing all those things, you learn very fast and then you can steer. Maybe you've heard that saying before, you cannot steer a parked car. But when you are moving, and we already started moving within phase 1, we started moving your mind, and then we started moving with you making money. So up until now, if you've done all of this right, you took action, 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 and that got you moving, and now you can adjust. Now you can adjust the direction in which you're going. And maybe now you get to the conclusion that, you know what, when I can manage to do this phase 3 the right way, so think outside the box, I can make it way faster than 7 years. And that is true, there are people who make it. Then it again becomes about, okay, is this a false belief and can I find counter proof? I still think that phase number 3 is the most time intensive, just because, at least for me, the time you take to learn, and also, the time you take from realizing, okay, I learned something, I can take action, how can I take action? Learning this and getting better at this still takes time. And that is also the reason why for phase number 1 and phase number 2, I set very short time periods so that you just get out of your head and you get into action, and then, you can take longer for phase 3 if it needs longer. And that were the 3 phases of how to retire within 7 years. Now, if you're ready for that journey, comment 1 action you can take right now in order to start on that journey. If you stood here, thank you for watching this far. I hope you got some value out of it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.